Okay, well we'll get kicked off here. So good afternoon, hello, and welcome to our Business Agility video podcast. So each week we spend 30 minutes exploring business topics for growing businesses in Canada. So today we'll explore how to fill your sales pipeline using LinkedIn. So the importance of using technology and new methods to engage people has really been highlighted like crazy over the last year with physical distancing and all the things that are going on out there. And we've seen some rapid digital transformations as a result. So today we'll share some ideas with tips and tricks that we can take away today using LinkedIn as a tool for our prospecting. So our panelists today are Samantha DeForge, myself, Murray Quibell, and we are highlighted by our guest panelist, Candice Edelin. Candice is the CEO of Propel Growth, and she has more than 25 years experience in product and company launches, and particularly in developing successful go-to-market strategies with proven sales results. So we're going to ask Candice some questions today with stats and things like that. So look forward to that as we go. And as always, our format is interactive. Send us your questions and comments in the chat box or on the comments. So we have both our webinar here that we're on the live webinar now, as well as we have the Facebook live stream. So send comments in there or questions in the chat box on the webinar here. So we'll start with panelist intros, and then we'll get right into our topic. So with that, I'll introduce myself quickly. I am Murray Quibell, the president of Accurus Solutions. Now, we are a cloud software solutions provider. So engaging with people is always important as we want to share the great software and the methodologies and the team that we have. And so finding more people to engage is something we were always interested in doing, and how we might be able to use LinkedIn better is something that I'm always intrigued to figure out a little bit more. I'm a little bit of a reserved as far as LinkedIn and social media goes. So hence why I might ask Candice some tough questions of how we can turn the corner and use it better. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Candice for a quick intro to yourself.
Hi, so thanks for that intro. You kind of said most of it. So I am a serial entrepreneur. I've had to grow businesses each time we've launched companies. I've launched two software companies before Propel Growth. And the process of launching Propel Growth was kind of cool because I had a pretty good existing base of relationships. And so for 9 years, I didn't make a single outbound sales call. And all that changed in 2018 when I decided to change markets and had to start over in building my network. And that's when I started using LinkedIn to do it, and it's had amazing results. But I'm one of those people that's a bag carrying salesperson in addition to being a business owner. If I don't sell, my peeps don't eat. So it's, gotta get it done somehow. So I'll talk about that. But thanks for having me today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for.
And I am Samantha Knighton DeForge. I work as a business solution specialist with Accurus, and we continuously strive to help not only our customers, but businesses all around Canada streamline towards more efficiency, better efficiencies, better processes, and really giving them the visibility and automation that most businesses need in this market today. So with that being said, I really want to get in, Candice going on this masterclass. Maybe you should talk about that, Candice. It's coming up next week. I know there's a lot of interest in it. Maybe just kind of speak about that to give people context.
Okay, so going back to that story about 2018 and me trying to develop a new audience, a new market for our business and sell. We sell consulting services for helping companies with their marketing, but we tend to be very niche focused in it. And so I was trying to tackle the commercial real estate technology space with our to sell into that space. And I looked at a lot of different LinkedIn lead generation techniques to do that because I didn't really have the money to do a ton of traveling and go to a lot of events. We live in Colorado. There's not a lot going on here from a commercial real estate technology space. So I couldn't just leverage local business and didn't have that budget, both for the conferences, but also to jump on planes all the time to go out and network. So I started looking at LinkedIn as a way to try to engage with those people. And looked at about 12 different LinkedIn lead generation services, those done for you services that probably everybody who's listening today is getting approached by some of these companies saying, we'll transform your business with LinkedIn by just let us do all your lead gen for you and you'll never have to make another cold call. That sounded great to me, so I wanted to try to figure out whether I could make that work. So I talked to about 12 of those companies and evaluated what they were doing. I actually engaged a couple of them for two of my clients to look at how they were doing things, but I found that the results weren't great. And in my situation, I had a limited target audience that I was going after of about 500 or 600 companies. And their results on just getting connection requests responded to was between 20 and 25%. So I'm going to drain my entire target audience really fast if 75% of them don't even respond to my connection request. So I had to figure out a way to increase the odds that I would be able to get connected with people and get conversations going. So I tried some of their techniques, found that they weren't really working well, decided to do it myself, and shifted the way I did it from what they were doing. What they would recommend is that you send a kind of a bland connection request, maybe saying that we know someone in common, but not even being specific about who we know. And then if they connect, then start sending them content like, hey, you might be interested in this asset that I've created, this lead magnet. And do like 3 content drops and then say, hey, I know you're really interested in all this garbage I've been sending you. You want to meet? And I just found that it was aggravating people. It was like spam to them more than it was creating a relationship. And I'm not that kind of person. I am more of an introvert. Murray, we were kind of talking about that when we prepped for this. I'm not this person who's like this hard sell, just get out there and talk to everybody. I'm not comfortable with that. And so this idea of pressuring people to buy from me wasn't ever going to work for me. It's just not my personality. So I decided to try to use LinkedIn to build relationships instead of just going for a hard sell. And what I
think
found,
that's, yeah, sorry, I think that's the same with everybody. When you think about LinkedIn or whatever it is, you're getting bombarded with notes or people that are trying that hard sell. So I'll let you carry on, because I think that's what we're seeing, is that it's great to shift online and to think about platforms, but how do you avoid becoming just another piece of noise? But I'll let you carry on it, because I know you're probably going to answer that.
yeah, I don't like it when people do it to me. So why would I want to be that person?
Yeah.
You know? So what I started doing was sending really, really personalized connection requests. I would look you up and say, Murray, and I've noticed that you run this company. This is a little bit of your background. And I would send a detailed connection request that demonstrates that this is not a bot sending this. And then when you connect, I'll repeat, some of the language in my connection request and say, hey, you know what, I would really like to get acquainted, and try to go for getting engagement right away. And what I found was that worked a lot better. So over the course of 6 months, I got 500 accepted connections. That was, I don't know what the numbers are, but it was a 76% connection acceptance rate. Then out of that, 355 of those people actually engaged with me on LinkedIn Messenger, like chatting back and forth. And then out of those, I found that 125 of them booked meetings with me to get acquainted over Zoom. And that was in 2018, not 2020, where, Zoom was not as popular then. But, it's like I got all of these meetings, and then I was able to turn a bunch of those into qualified opportunities. Not all of them, but I think my conversion ratio was about 25%. So it's a much more effective, but it's also much more comfortable, because I was building relationships with people, and I still have relationships with a lot of those first 125 people.
Yeah, and I guess, when you talk about your masterclass that you're doing next week, I don't want to ruin it for the people who are attending next week, but I know that there's a couple of things, and I think a couple of those golden nuggets that our viewers could probably take away to at least get started, and then, maybe even join the masterclass that you guys have. But why don't you, Candace, I think a lot of people think that LinkedIn is just, there's a standard tool, you reach out to someone, you connect with them, and you ask them if they want to essentially buy your service at one point within the first 3 weeks. What do you think is wrong with doing that? And then how does your solution work and give you the return and the numbers that you just expressed and showed?
So that's a great question, Samantha. And yeah, just to let everybody know, the masterclass starts next Wednesday, and we'll give you a link at the end. But the learning.propelgrowth.com is where you find out more info on it. But what I found, and like I just got a connection request yesterday for somebody who reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're doing research for my boss who's writing a book, and I'd like to connect with you and learn more about kind of what your situation is because we will use that in writing the book." Now, I've done that. I've like reached out to people and said, "Hey, Samantha, I think that's how I met you." Is I reached out and said, I've been doing some research on trends in what it takes to market ERP technology and wanted to chat with you about it, right?
We met at the summit.
We met.
Remember, you were sitting behind me and we talked about the Christmas cards.
That's right. You have the coolest Christmas cards. Those are awesome. I do.
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. I should remember these things.
Yeah.
But normally I would reach out and say, hey, I'm doing this research. And so this person reached out that way. The problem is then when I accepted, I'm still expecting that she's going to want to talk to me about trends. But she started pitching me immediately in her first message about, hey, we've got this great methodology that we're going to be writing about, and I think it could be useful for you. Let's talk. Well, that was sort of like a bait and switch. And it made me sorry that I accepted that connection request, because now she's got my email and she's probably going to start spamming me. And that's just annoying. So I tried that. It doesn't work. And so what I would do was try to create a relationship talking about trends. There's actually evidence that business executives want to talk to salespeople if they can learn some good insights that will help them in their business. And like 82% of business executives will take a call with a seller if they feel confident that they're going to be able to get useful insights from them. So let's do that. Let's pay it forward, give to get, right? And so I'm going to call up and I'm going to bring something to the table from a business insight perspective that will help them. I don't have to spend a lot of time on it, because then I'm going to start asking them questions and then get their opinions, because people like to be heard. And so, frankly, about 20% of 20 minutes out of a 30-minute call is all on trying to get them to talk instead of me doing all the talking like I'm doing right now. Sorry.
Well, what's funny? It's funny that you say that, because, being in a solution selling role or any person in sales, I think if you haven't done sales, you'll give people the benefit of the doubt. If you're receiving a sales call, if you've ever worked a sales role, you will hear somebody out. And I remember about last summer, I received a call from TELUS. We're with Shaw for internet, and they called me, and the lady said, "Hey, do you have 15 minutes to chat?" And I said, "Sure." She was so caught off guard, she had no idea what to say. She's like, "Oh my God, this lady isn't hanging up on me. Okay, well, I can give you this kind of download speed." I said, "Okay, that's fine. We have this download speed now. Can you beat it?" "Oh no, I can't." But she was so frazzled that I gave her the time, and she listened to it. But it was mind blowing, because she couldn't beat what I had. And I said, "Listen, most salespeople will always try to find a better solution or a better, and they're selling a service of value, whatever it might be, whether it's pens, paper clips, whatever it might be. So why wouldn't a business owner hear them out, right?" But I mean, I don't want to really talk about that too much today. I definitely want to get back into the process, the couple of steps, Candace, that you have found to be very successful in LinkedIn prospecting.
Sure. So first is niche. What I find is that I'm going to start sending out connection requests, and those connection requests are going to be extremely personalized to the person, to the business industry, and to the company that I'm going after. So one of the easiest ways for me to make this more efficient is to pick a niche to go after, and then find 20, 30, 40 companies within that niche that I'm going to chase that represent my ideal customer profile. Then I'm going to identify the key people that would be the likely buying committee for what I'm selling. And I'm going to put together a list in Sales Navigator of those people. Then I'm going to start to research what are some topics that are going to be interesting to this particular group of companies, this particular group of buyer personas, and start to send out individual, very personalized connection requests. You can't do this in volume because it takes time to personalize every connection request. So usually I can get 10 to 20 connection requests out per day at the most. I've never gotten more than 20. Then I'm looking to see who's connecting with me. And as soon as they connect, I'm sending them a very personalized message that's connected to my original request to try to engage them in a conversation. And if they will engage with me in a conversation on LinkedIn, then I'm going to try to engage them in a face-to-face conversation on Zoom. So and it's very methodical. It's like I send a connection request, I try to engage them, I try to book a meeting, and then I just keep track of that over time and keep reaching out to people. Some people don't book a meeting right away. I've had situations where it took a year to get the meeting. I've had other situations where I got a meeting and then I kept talking to them and nurturing that. It took a year to close the deal. But I did close the deal, so it's just about this process of prospecting and establishing relationships.
So in the example, and I think I love the way how you kind of laid out that, starting with a niche is really important, because you can't have any relevant information if you're blanketing a massive, list that's covering off. And I like the fact that you've targeted a certain number of people. But in even using the example you just mentioned about, say, the person that didn't engage with the meeting right away and it took a year, what kinds of things would you keep sending them stuff over that time, or what kinds of methodologies or strategies would you use to try to keep them engaged?
That's a great question. So this is where I really try to work in a pay it forward approach. And now I
Okay.
get to doing some content drops. So if that person engaged with me, but I didn't get a meeting, then 2 or 3 weeks later, I'll probably ping you again. Hey, Murray, did you see this really interesting article that Gong.io put out that talks about, the response rates, and Gong publishes some really cool research on sales reps and their calls, and what works and what doesn't work in a call. So like if they come out with some interesting research, I might share some of that. If I've seen something interesting about the industry that you're in, I might share that. And I'll share something about every 3 weeks. I'm not going to be doing too much. I'm not going to spam them, but it's always with an effort of, hey, what do you think about this? What's your opinion about this detail in this research survey? Do you agree with it? Is that your experience? To try to get them to respond. Everything that I do is one-to-one and designed to try to start a conversation.
Murray's
And,
taking notes.
and
I
so
am
it's
actually, yeah. I mean, I think again, that's what my perspective on this is, that, and I can relate to. And hey, guys, who's ever on the call, share some of your questions and insights, and because I'm going to do mine, because hey, I know we've tried to do things with LinkedIn, and I'm admittedly not I'm not that social media savvy, and I think that, but I would say I'm probably not unlike a lot of the people that we as a IT solutions provider, or as a company that's selling insulation or building products, again, a lot of the people that you're trying to approach either are not on social media, or they're not that savvy about it. They're just trying to get their day done. And so I can relate to myself as how I might react to that. And I can relate to, sometimes I'll completely ignore it, but there are cases that I would be interested in it. And I'm interested to, kind of obviously your approach at how you can actually foster that interest on some people that are typically hard to crack.
I'm going to go back just a little bit to what you just said because this is really important. So not everybody is accessible on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Now there's over 90 million senior executives on LinkedIn. So in most industries, you'll find some. But
Yeah.
let's say you've got a target account list of 50 accounts. Not all 50 are going to be reachable. And so I always evaluate that first by
Yeah.
looking at whether the account has an active LinkedIn profile and whether the person I'm targeting has an active profile. If they have 27 connections and they have no activity, it's very unlikely that they will even notice when I
Yeah.
send them a connection request. So I don't bother with that. If it's an account I need to get into, I find a different way in. But if they've got over 500 connections, and you can see some activity that they've liked things on LinkedIn, and that activity is within the last few weeks, then that person is much more likely to see your connection request and see your activity.
Yeah.
The other way that I engage with people is, if I'm trying to get a person to connect with me or to respond to my messages and they're sharing posts on LinkedIn, I'll go like it and comment on it because that's going to show up in their notifications that Candace Edelin liked such and such. And if they're actively trying to use LinkedIn to push out content, I'm paying it forward by helping them spread the word because every like and every comment, that activity pushes their post into your feed and extends the reach of that post for them.
That makes sense. And what if we talk about a little bit here, because I know we got 10 minutes left, but I want to sort of talk about that profile, optimizing your profile, and the value that something like that can bring. And I don't think that's something a lot of people really think about. A lot of people might say, oh, I'm going to send a personal message. I think that's something a lot of people have said and, kind of have heard or know about. But I don't think people realize how important optimizing their personal profile on LinkedIn is in starting that connection.
Thanks for bringing that up. That's super, super important. First of all, if you're using LinkedIn to try to generate interest, either to market your business or to sell, it's really important that you recognize that it is not your resume. LinkedIn is a marketing tool, not a resume tool. Now, that changes if you're job hunting, obviously. But when you're trying to get out there and promote, you need to be very, very customer centric from everything from the headline at the top of your profile to your summary to even what your job descriptions say. So, and that's why I like to focus on a niche when I'm targeting. So let's say that I want to target manufacturers. Well, that's really, really broad. But if I start targeting manufacturers of janitorial supplies, and I want to target that for the next, 40 or 50 companies, which could mean, if I'm going after 10 buyer personas in 40 to 50 companies, that's like 500 people I'm going to target. It's going to take me a while to get through that. So I might actually change my profile headline to saying helping the Jansan industry improve their financial results by giving them more intelligent data to look at, for if I'm selling ERP, for example. And then my profile, at the beginning of my profile summary, it's going to talk about pain points that the Jansan industry, janitorial sanitation industry experiences and why data is so important to improve their business outcomes. And then I'm going to look at how does my experience relate to that in, maybe it's that maybe I was a janitor in high school, or maybe I learned how, at working at McDonald's, how important customer service is and, making each customer feel important. Like, I don't have to say that I flipped 500,000 burgers at McDonald's. I can talk about how I understood that the quality of every burger counted. So it's making things customer centric throughout your profile, because when you send a connection request, the first thing people are going to look at is your profile, and they're going to look at your headline because that's going to come across in the connection request, and they're going to look at the top part of your summary, and they're going to make a decision from that about whether they want to connect to you. So if your summary talks about these amazing sales results that you've gotten and how you pound the pavement and don't let go of a prospect until they buy, that is not going to create confidence with me. It needs to be something about how you help customers. And then if you're going to target a different industry in 2 months, change your headline, change a little bit about at the beginning of your summary to make it relevant to that target audience.
And I think that's something a lot of people don't do, but I think you're right. There is such value that if you're in a sales role, you're right. Your LinkedIn isn't your resume unless you're job hunting. So if you focus on providing customers with, hey, or prospective buyers with value and say, yeah, we work with janitorial, sanitization, or in our case, we help businesses regain control of their business, right? That's kind of what we do. But I think that having a very compelling headline and making it ask a little bit, the ability for people to ask questions, I think really is is critical.
It's
You gotta keep it real though. Hey, and I think that's it has to be genuine. And hey, you can't just be changing your profile all the time based on whatever campaign you have. Hey, and I think it has to be real, genuine customer, stories that you've solved and things like that. I want you to. I know we don't have a ton of time. Like, I don't know if you can throw a few or time left. I don't know if you can throw a few kind of benchmarks out there that you might say, hey, you mentioned before, in terms of the number of people that you could legitimately reach out, it was maybe between 10 and 20, where you're actually creating a personal message and things like that. But are there some benchmarks that you have or other stats that you might be able to share to say, hey, here's some compelling reasons why we think LinkedIn is somewhere we should be investing in, and then if we're evaluating it as part of our marketing budget, how we might evaluate it, that kind of thing.
Sure. So, in terms of my stats, I have experienced about a 76% connection acceptance rate. That is not where I started. I really had to learn this process. And so, the first 2 months that I started doing this, I got almost no results in terms of meetings, and connection request responses were okay, but not great. It got much better after I evaluated what I was doing. And you can download your message history and your connection requests and invitations from LinkedIn, and then look at it and see what was actually getting responses and what wasn't. Then in terms of comparing it to stats, so let's say that you want to compare this to cold calling. About
Sure. Yep.
2% of cold calls result in an appointment. So for every 100 dials, you might get 2 people on the phone that you can have a conversation with. Um, Email marketing, if you're marketing to a cold list and you get a 20% open rate, that's going to be pretty amazing. But even with that open rate, I mean, how many people respond to cold emails? I was getting a 71% response rate, not a click through. I mean, people actually replied to me, 71%. You'll never see those kinds of numbers with email marketing. I don't say that you shouldn't cold call and email market. I think that all of this can come together as part of an integrated strategy. But LinkedIn is the place where I found the most response rate for my effort, I think is the way to say it. But is that what you were looking for, Murray, in terms of?
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, even and is that even just in terms of the number of hours per day, so you're spending 8 hours a day and you're creating 10 to 20, or we know what I mean, like the kind of benchmarks, what might we
Yeah.
expect? Obviously a salesperson can't spend their whole day just on LinkedIn crafting creative messages, but I mean, is that 2 hours a day to do those 10 to 20 contacts, or just
I
share.
was I was putting in roughly during that 6 month period. Now I don't spend as much time now because I don't have to have as much volume coming in on those sales calls. But I was investing 3 to 8 hours. I'm sorry, 5 to 8 hours per week.
Okay.
So usually I find that if I can sit down for 2 hours and work through a list, I can get out 10 connection requests, customized connection requests. So one day I might be sending out a bunch of connection requests, and then periodically through the day, I'm checking to see who's messaging me. I also have alerts on every device so that if I get a connection accepted, I'm messaging them instantly. The faster you message them, the more likely they are to respond after they accept your connection request. And then I'm going through my list and working the list for a couple of hours also. So, I would generally try to put out about 40 to 50 connection requests per week to get those numbers. I mean, if you join the masterclass, you're going to get a calculator that will calculate how many, in order to hit your quota with your conversion ratios, it will tell you how many connection requests you need to make, how many people you need to get engaged in messaging,
Okay.
and how many meetings you should be able to book from that so that you can benchmark it. And then I'll also give you a scorecard to keep track of it.
Yeah, actually,
That's important.
That's perfect. That's exactly kind of what I was thinking. And I guess that's a lead into our, as we wrap up, what might be some action items. And yeah, I think Samantha has just posted a link to your master class. And that's probably a really nice action item that to kind of, where there might be some tools and templates and formulas and a little bit more stats to help really craft out what the strategy should be around this. Hey?
I think maybe with time though too, maybe in about a month or two, we should bring back one of your classmates there, Candace, and see what their results were like after taking the class and using the tools and tactics that they've implemented. Keeping track and seeing and having a follow-up on this session. I think that'd be great.
That's a really good idea. Let's plan to do that. And also, just for everybody checking out that link, you can also register for a free webinar on that link too. So if you want to kind of trial this and see what it's like, the webinar's on there. And you can also subscribe to get some free email tips. So if you're not quite ready to sign up for the masterclass, those are ways for you to get a little bit more information. But I do encourage you to sign up soon because the masterclass starts on Wednesday next week.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Well, I think closing thoughts, we are at 2:30 there, Murray. So maybe we'll start with Candace to give her closing thoughts, then move on to you, and then I'll sign it off.
I guess closing thoughts is don't not start. Like, figure out what target market you could go after and start today. Just look at your profile, modify your profile to make it relevant to that target audience, and give it a shot to reach out to 5-10 people, see what kind of connection acceptance rate you get. Give this a try. Don't feel like you can't do it, because anybody can do what I did.
I think my thought would be, and this kind of goes with most marketing efforts, is you got to keep at it, right? It's not just a point in time thing where you just press a few buttons and wait for magic to happen. You do have to, kind of take a little bit of a long-term approach. So with that, I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to, kind of re-energize around what some of our campaigns might be with LinkedIn. So thanks for sharing some of those thoughts.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining us today on our first official podcast of 2021. We do have series going all the way till the end of the year, but with my closing thoughts being, I really hope that you guys can use some of Candace's tips and tricks today to hopefully get you guys a little bit more lead gen and hopefully some more sales, especially because given the market, it's a hard market out there right now. So thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.